Thank you all so much for joining us today. I'm Chris Daniel, Faculty PD Manager for the Instructional Design Center in the Office of eCampus Learning. And if I could say that all in one breath, I don't guess I need the inhaler. Thank you, Kim and Tanya, for presenting for us today. They have a really interesting perspective as full-time staff in with EKU. Tanya, I'm not as familiar with you. I apologize, but you all both have just a real big hand in dealing with students and optimizing your courses such that our students in these programs can get a lot of the information that they need to really help them feel connected to the things that students do, you know, even in a face-to-face environment. They really help bridge these gaps of time and distance that we have in online learning. So thank you all so much for presenting today. Without further ado, I'll let you introduce yourselves. Take it away.
Thank you, Chris. Before I share the PowerPoint, I just want to tell you a little bit about myself, and then I'm going to turn it over to Tanya to share information about her, and then I'll share our PowerPoint. My name is Kim Chitwood. I am currently the Assistant Online Program Coordinator for the Master's Program in Safety, Security, and Emergency Management. I've been at Eastern for 14 years, and I've been in this role for 7 or 8 years. I worked for Occupational Safety Online prior to this, and I did earn my master's in SSEM back in 2012. So I've been teaching and facilitating GSD 101. I did that in the past. I facilitated several classes, and then I currently teach OSH 110, which is an Intro to Safety Studies course, and then I'm also an instructor for SSE 801, which is an orientation to master students in the SSEM program. So I'm from Richmond. I've been here my whole life, and I love EKU, and I'm glad to be able to share some of our experiences. As Chris said, we're not full-time faculty, which I say that in a bad aspect sometimes, but it's really not bad. It's just we have a different perspective just from teaching, I think, because of our advisor type roles that we have and have had for several years. We've been EKU students as well. We've been EKU online students. So I do think that helps us have a different perspective as well. So that's a little bit about me. I'm going to turn it over to Tanya and let her introduce herself now.
Hi, everyone. Chris, thank you for that introduction. I am Tanya Ritter. I am the online specialist for occupational safety through eCampus. I've been in this role for about 4 years now, but I've been with EKU in a wide variety of roles. I got my undergraduate here. I got my graduate in safety, security, and emergency management in 2008. I started teaching part-time and facilitating in 2010 for both SSE and the OSH program, and I have been teaching for about the last 12 years. So we appreciate everybody joining. Like Kim said, we love EKU. We love our students. We're very, we feel like we're personally connected to both the OSH and the SSE program. So any way we can bring these students in and hold on to them, giving them the tools they need, this is what we try to do.
So I'm going to go ahead and hopefully share my screen here with everyone. Are you able to see the PowerPoint? Okay. Okay. So today we're going to be talking about front-loading future success in your course design, as well as your Blackboard portals. So that's really a long title, just to kind of make sure that you are designing your courses, whether they are existing courses that you have to work with for a little bit longer, or if you are trying to develop a new course. Just some things that we have tried over the course of the years that we have done this that we think do help as far as the retention goes of our students, because we want to see everyone finish what they started. It was obviously important enough for them to apply and come to EKU, and we want them to be able to get that degree, see that end in sight. And so we want to talk about some of those things today. This PowerPoint, I'm assuming that each of you will be able to have a copy of this if you need it. We do have our contact information on here. So if anyone has questions afterwards, we are more than happy to have a conversation with you at any time. So today we're going to be covering pre-semester course planning, introducing students to EKU resources in your intro type courses or any courses for that fact, and why it's important. Utilizing videos to reinforce the syllabus, your weekly task list, your assignments, the no cost, no credit program orientation that is part of my SSEM program, effective use of student portals, and how to increase retention just as a result of all of these things that we are sharing today. So we're going to move on to this course planning prior to day number 1. And just to let you know, Tanya is going to be assisting as well. So I'm leading each slide. Tanya's going to jump in and add anything as far as anything else that needs to be covered on each of these slides. So the first thing is just to make sure if you are teaching an eCampus course is that you work with your instructional designer a few weeks before the term actually starts for any needed updates. And if you are teaching a campus course, that is a little bit different. I did speak with Chris, and he did say if there's any faculty member that is teaching an online class for the first time that needs some sort of assistance, he can kind of be your contact person if you are looking for some additional help from an instructional designer. They might be able to answer your questions as well. But having that relationship with your instructional designer is important, and making sure that they know what you are looking for, that you get that class in the best fashion that it can possibly be, and have everything ready to go before day 1. I know when instructors have literally opened the class the day before a term starts, it doesn't result in the best start of a term for the instructor or for the students as well. So we want to make sure that we eliminate as much confusion as possible, especially for these intro type courses. You know, students are nervous as it is, and we want to make sure that week number 1, especially day number 1, goes smoothly. And working with your instructional designer can definitely help with that. Reviewing all of your course content, especially links. We have seen a lot of links to videos or articles, things of that nature. While they may work one term, they may not always work in upcoming terms. So it is important that you go through all of your content and make sure that all links are working and everything is ready for students to be able to access when that week comes along. Making sure that your course dates and your assignment dates are updated. And that is something sometimes your instructional designer may do for you. It is something that you as an instructor have the ability to do as well. Students often get stressed out over the assignment due dates and when do I have to do this, when do I have to do that, and just making sure those are correct is definitely going to reduce a lot of confusion. And one of the most important things to me is if you are teaching an eCampus course and you're utilizing a facilitator, it's extremely important to share your expectations with your facilitators and do that before the course starts. So you might consider having a Teams call or a Zoom call with your facilitators just to make sure they are on the same page that you are on. Grading should be the same across the board. You should not have facilitators grading at different levels. If there's rubrics that are associated with assignments, those need to be followed. What do you want to do as far as late work goes? Students that register late, anybody that has some sort of need, you want to make sure that your facilitators are doing the same thing that you are across the board. So having that conversation with your facilitators, I think, is huge, and it does make the term go much smoother if everyone's on that same page. Tanya, do you have anything else you want to add to this slide?
Yeah, very quickly, that top one, working with your instructional designer, I'll be the first to admit that I am not a genius when it comes to the technical aspect of the way our courses are built. I have worked with several instructional designers through the OSH program over the last several years, and I have learned something from each of them. They are just an invaluable asset to me and to the department, and I would strongly encourage everybody just to reach out, like Kim said, have a meeting with them, go over your ideas, your expectations for the class if you are building one, or if you're just taking one over to teach. I think you'd be amazed at what they can help you with. And then just again to touch on the last point you made, Kim, about sharing your expectations with facilitators. I think we all kind of get in a groove sometimes. We know who we're working with. We know how they work in a class, but things happen. So don't forget to check on what your facilitators are doing in that first week or two. Make sure that they are actually following through with what you have explained to them prior to the class beginning. Make sure that the participation in the discussion boards is at the level that you want it to be. That way you can make any corrections early and then have a smooth rest of your term.
Yeah, that's totally correct. And if you are teaching a campus only course, all of these things that we have mentioned here, with the exception of facilitator, are still things that, campus instructors should do as well. But I do know there are some faculty, a lot of people were kind of forced to go into this online environment when maybe they hadn't done that in the past. So, working with someone like Chris or having him put you in contact with someone that can kind of get you started down that road, if this is totally new to you, is something I think is definitely worth your time in trying to make that happen. So our next slide is including EKU specific resources in your introductory type classes. And just to kind of give you an idea of OSH 110, it's an introduction to safety studies. It is meant to be a requirement for all of those OSH majors or minors. However, it also has become a popular free elective for other students as well. So because it is an introductory type course, we want to make sure that we are meeting the needs of all of our students, whether they are campus or online. We do have a fully online campus program for OSH as well as a campus program. The needs of those students are different. And as you are creating your courses, you have to make sure that you're meeting the needs of everyone. So our online population is definitely more of those working professionals. They're a little bit older. Many of them have not been in a college class in 5, 10, 15, sometimes 20 years. When they were in college before, there was probably no internet. They've probably never used an online library. They haven't wrote a paper in so long. So we are addressing those needs of the students across the board, even though we know as we create this new course that campus students may not necessarily have those same needs. But regardless of who you are, EKU information is really important to make sure that we are giving those brand new students all the EKU information that we think they should have. And that can be a lot, especially if you're teaching an 8-week class. OSH 110 was created back in 2015, and we're currently on the 3rd version since the class originally started. So you kind of have to tweak it as you go along and make it the best that it can be, but it is challenging when you have a lot of content regarding your class that you want to cover, as well as incorporating that EKU type stuff. So that's a little bit of what we want to talk about on this slide. Just to start at the top, we utilize the announcements feature in our Blackboard shell a lot. And that helps us to make sure that the entire class is getting all the information at the same time. Make sure that if you are sending out an announcement that you do enable that feature for the announcement to actually have an email go to the student's inbox. I send out announcements a lot. I'll send out an announcement at the very beginning of the week, kind of outlining the expectations for the week. I'll also send out an email at the end of the week, kind of summarizing, this is what we did. And as grading happened for that particular week's assignments, just provide any feedback to the group as far as, issues that students may have been seeing or, anything I want to share regarding what was turned in for that particular week. I do think that's important to utilize this announcement feature to share with your online students, because that is your main means of communication with them. So announcements is huge and can go a long way. We do find challenges with students reading their email, and I'm sure that is something that a lot of people see across the board. But I know that I feel it's worth my time to type an email. Hopefully a majority of students will see it and be able to get that current information for that particular week. Point number 2, working with an EKU librarian to create specific resources and assignments for your class, I think is huge. We had the pleasure of working with Brad Markham at the EKU library, and he has been a huge help to us, as well as our past librarians. Your EKU librarian can create specific resources just for your course. And they could include that in the menu bar of Blackboard. I've had the librarian create a specific library assignment for me for OSH 110. Also SSE 801, the other course that I teach, it's a no cost, no credit orientation for grad students. but those students have a need as well to make sure that they are learning how to use the library before the term actually starts, or at least have it early on in their very first term. So the librarians are there to help you. They will come to class if you are teaching on campus, and that's great. But I love having something that's embedded within Blackboard where students can refer to at any given time. Brad has made specific tutorial kind of cheat sheets, if you will, about the library resources. He knows where those common resources are for our particular students. And having that library assignment incorporated early in their first term, I think is huge, because I've had so many students express their frustration over how to use the library. You can waste a lot of time trying to find something that you could find in just a few minutes if you knew where to look or if you knew where to ask for help. So we want to eliminate as much confusion and frustration, and especially in week number 1 of a course. We want students to know that they can do this, that there are lots of people that are here that can help them. And we want to make sure that first week gives them the information, the first couple of weeks or so gives them the information they need to succeed. So ask your librarian. They will periodically post in your announcements. So Brad will post in SSE 801. He posts in OSH 110. He also posts in my portals that we'll talk about in a few moments. But they will do basically whatever you want them to do. So just see how can you incorporate an EKU librarian into your current course.
Kim, can I add to that real quick before you move on to the next section? I just wanted to point out how in OSH 110, you have created a section in the class, the virtual office, that is questions specific to our librarian. So that is something that the students can ask questions about the research assignment in particular, or general research questions that the librarian could answer much more efficiently than you and I could as the instructor for the class. So I just think that's another excellent way. Like you said, Brad is wonderful to work with, Heather before him, where they are willing and able to jump in. They answer the questions. They actively participate and monitor these forums so they can help students in one more way. And it makes them a little more easier to reach if you can just pop a question into the virtual office versus trying to track one down, through the library contact center. It just makes it one step easier for our students.
Yes, and to add to that, also in OSH 110, students do a couple of safety essays, and I share those due dates with Brad as far as when are these safety essays, when are students starting those, when are they due, and he'll post additional announcements leading up to those courses or up to those assignments, and make sure that students know who he is. His main goal is to make sure he puts his name out there so much that people have to know that Brad is our librarian for OSH for OSH and for SSEM. So I appreciate all that he has done, and Heather and everyone that's helped us in the past with the EKU library. So I hope that each of you have an opportunity to reach out to a librarian to just see how can they be incorporated into your class, because I think that is a huge advantage for our students. Degree works, we do talk about degree works in SSE 801 as well as OSH 110. Tanya, do you want to talk a little bit about degree works and why it's important?
Degree planning for a student that's just starting in our program is so important, not only so they know what classes to take every semester, but when they can foresee themselves graduating. It just builds in the goal for them that they can work towards. So, it has been an assignment previously. Now we refer to it to assure that they are working with their advisors to build that plan. This is also where we stress the importance of, if you don't follow the current plan, to work with your advisor to make those changes so it can be as up to date as possible.
And I know that all programs don't utilize that planner tab in DegreeWorks, but we do for OSH and for SSEM. In SSE 801, students also create a degree plan as part of a class requirement. So making sure that students know how to utilize DegreeWorks and why would they want to check it periodically, like what does it do for them. We make sure that we cover that content in our introductory class. Obviously, we want to mention any sort of tutoring options that might be specific to your department or to the university. Smart thinking is something that some of our online students use. I think more students use the Noel Studio. We always make sure we share Noel Studio information. Brad does some of that as our librarian as well. But because this is an intro type course, and OSH 110 and SCC 801, those are the first courses that any student takes in our class. So like there is really no other option. We know that when we have a student in one of those classes, they're brand new to EKU, more than likely. So the Noel Studio and the services that they can offer our students as far as writing, APA style presentations, anything like that, we make sure that we share that information throughout the term as needed, especially reaching out to specific students that seem to be struggling in any sort of way. We also share a little bit about time management and just study tips, because as I've mentioned before, our online students haven't been a student for so long. It takes a little bit to get back in the groove of finding what works for you. And even if you remember what worked for you the first time you may have been in college, you're probably in a very different time in your life right now. So finding time to do your homework, how do I organize all of this stuff? Many people have never taken an online class. It can be overwhelming for people. So providing them just some of those time management study type tips can definitely be helpful for new students. Our program utilizes the APA style of writing. So OSH students and SSEM students definitely can't get away from it. It is something that is expected of them from their very first class until they graduate. For many students, that is brand new. They know nothing about that. So sharing any sort of information that we have about APA or MLA, whatever style that you may be using. Again, the library has provided us some of that information. I've added some additional stuff that I've collected as well. So providing that in class number one really sets the tone for students to know, hey, I have to learn how to use this, because honestly, when students leave OSH 110, it is expected that they know the basics of this APA style of writing. It is expected in future OSH classes, and it's actually expected in our grad classes from the get-go. So I include that information in my SSE 801 course that we'll talk about in a moment. Just basic Blackboard tutorials. Blackboard has changed over the years. Even if you've used it in the past, it may be a bit different now. And just making sure they know how to utilize Blackboard. So I actually created a video that is included in week number 1, where I just go through the entire Blackboard shell, kind of showing how to navigate Blackboard. How can they get through our particular class? If you click on something, you're not going to break it, but students often are just hesitant of, what should I do? What should I click on? Where do I need to go? And by having a quick Blackboard type tutorial for them on how to navigate that specific course, we've had really good feedback on that as well. And then we also share any kind of career and co-op resources. Co-op is not required for our program. However, a large number of our students do take advantage of that. So we want to make sure early on that they know these are some opportunities that you may have coming up for you. Tanya, do you have anything else you'd like to add for this slide?
Just to wrap that up, any of these, the time management tips, the APA information, we try to provide those in documents that they can actually copy and download to their own computer. So if they lose access to the class once it ends, that they will still have access to these resources that they can carry on with them through the rest of the program.
That's correct. So utilizing videos in your class shell, I think is very important because it gives us an opportunity to express some things in a video, just as we would if we were face-to-face with our students. It's great getting, email communications and announcements and, being able to look at everything in a Blackboard shell, but sometimes it's just not the same as actually hearing someone say those same things. So the Instructional Design Center, you can record videos with them. A lot of our faculty do like weekly lecture videos in front of the green screen. They will help you. Chris's area will help you get through all of that. I use Screencast-O-Matic, which is something I can record just at my desk. It allows me to easily update videos whenever I want. And it's very easy to use. It doesn't require any any sort of planning on my part. I can just sit down and do it right from my laptop. So the videos that we record, as I mentioned just a minute ago, how to maneuver the class in Blackboard, I usually do an overview of the syllabus. So it gives me an opportunity to explain those same kind of things that I would to those students if they were sitting in front of me in class. I have included a short video with each assignment, and it's a very short video, but it's me explaining exactly what expectations do we have, the directions for that assignment. And so many people just need to hear things. We have to remember there's different types of learners, different types of people that pick up on the same type of information in a different way. So while watching these videos are not required, students can go through without watching any videos if they wish. We have had tremendous feedback from students since we started doing these videos on how much they like them. They're not anything fancy. There's no script. It's pretty much just me talking about the things that I want students to know about that particular assignment or that particular content area. So it's very easy to do, very easy for me to update those if anything changes with the assignment or the class. And then you can have weekly videos as far as your lecture for the week. Sometimes I'll have a video that goes over the task list that students find for the week. So sometimes the task list might look a little bit overwhelming, but when you break it down and you actually hear me talk about it, you can see that a lot of those things are maybe not going to take up too much of your time. So those are just some examples of which we use videos in OSH 110. I do the same thing in the SSE 801 course as well.
Just really quickly, Kim, we have where you have developed this class, and I get to reap the rewards of that. I don't have to do videos. That is not something I'm super comfortable with, that I need to really push myself. I assume there's other people that feel that way as well. But man, the students love these videos. I think we hear more positive feedback in our midterm surveys and our end of course evaluations about how those videos helped explain the assignment better, or just for them being able to hear it and to see it coming from you. It just made a whole lot more sense to them. So I'd certainly encourage anyone that has the opportunity to do that to really use these to the maximum if they can.
And I learned how to use Screencast-O-Matic from actually going to the PD class that the Instructional Design Center offered way back a long time ago. I went to one of the first ones. So, you know, these tools are not scary. I know that the IDC Center someone there can kind of help direct you if you're completely brand new to using something like Screencast-O-Matic. I think there are some other options, but for me, I've used Screencast-O-Matic for years and find it to be extremely easy to maneuver and saving my videos. I will say that this time I learned something new. I've increased my Blackboard instructional designer kind of skills every year that we go along. I was told how to upload my Screencast-O-Matic videos to Microsoft Stream, and that will actually provide a transcription to any students that need that type of transcription source. If they can't hear, they'll be able to read those videos as well. So there's lots of cool things that the Instructional Design Center can help you with videos if you need that. So I want to spend just a little bit of time talking about SSE 801 and why, if you work for a grad program, why this might be a good option for you. So SSE 801 is an academic orientation for students specifically in safety, security, and emergency management. It looks very much, it is a course. It's a no cost, no credit course, though, that we have students complete in their very first term. And the reason that we have created this class is because with OSH 110, we know that everyone has an opportunity to take OSH 110. Undergrad students take more classes across the board. You're here for 120 hours. You have a little bit of time to figure out all this EKU stuff and get kind of in the swing of being a student again. But with the grad program, we only have 12 classes. And once a student registers for their first class, it's kind of expected that they know all these things. There's not an introduction type credit type course that you're going to find in most grad programs. So we created SSE 801 several years ago to provide that introductory type information, much of which is the same that we talked about that's in the OSH 110 course, to be in this class. So it doesn't cost a student anything. It's not set up as far as having an actual letter grade. Students get a grade of CR for credit. And it's a kind of work at your own pace type of course, the way that we have it set up. So there are 8 course lessons in my class. Each lesson has some content of which they read. There's a video that I've recorded about that content. There's a short quiz at the end of that. And then once they pass that quiz, they move on to the next lesson. So the lessons, the kind of content that we have in there is a lot of EKU stuff, a lot of specific program information, some graduate school information. Students also create their own degree plan. There's only 12 classes. We talk about when the rotation of courses, when each is offered. So using all of that EKU type of information that I've shared with them, they create a degree plan. I review it. I lock it. I'm also their advisor. And I realize all faculty will not have that opportunity, but each grad program could create this class in the way that works best for them. You don't have to have a degree plan assignment in there, but it just ensures that all of our students know from their very first term when they need to take each class and when they're going to be able to graduate. So some of the things that we include in there are obviously the EKU resources, that all of the library information that we discussed earlier today, all of that's included in there as well. Brad Markham does help with the SSE 801. There's a library quiz that was created specifically for us that is in this. It's a self-graded type quiz, so you don't have to grade it. But Brad has also included all of that library information that's specific to students in our program in this class as well. We also have information about the APA style of writing. All of that same stuff is there. So any new grad student is going to have all this information at the very beginning of their first term, which is hopefully going to set them up to feel more comfortable and feel that, yes, I can do grad school. I'm going to be successful at this. And, saying all these things is, retention is huge across the university. And we do all these things because we love our students, we love our program, but we do want to retain them, not just for retention numbers, but we want to see people succeed and get through this program. So that's why we've created this class. It does require CAA approval if you're going to create this new class, but it's a unique class. It's not going to impact their GPA and it doesn't cost anything. So I just wanted to mention that today. I know it's not something that most grad programs have, but it is an option. So if anyone wanted to discuss, how we created this and why, and know a little bit more, then you can reach out to me. I'm happy to discuss that a little bit more. So we want to talk a little bit today also about our Blackboard student portals. I have a student portal in Blackboard for our online SSEM students. I have a separate portal for our campus students, and then Tanya manages a portal for the OSH online students. And I know that all programs have an opportunity to have a portal, but I know that most of them don't use them. And I just wanted to kind of show you a little bit about what's in our portal. And so the slide that you see is a screenshot from my portal. So you can see in that menu bar some of the types of things that are there, and that can be very specific to your program. So you can share as much or as little as you want. I do have some EKU information in there as well, because as Tanya mentioned, you may lose access to your class where you were originally given all of this information, but you will never lose access to your portal. So you can still keep that EKU type of those time management and the APA, the library, the Knoll Studio, all of that type of information can be housed in a portal. I have a syllabus archive in there, which students really like, being able to go back and see a copy of a syllabus that they may have used from a previous class, or new students actually like being able to look at a syllabus, even if it's an old version of a class that they'll be taking in the future. Anything specific like how to add concentrations is something for us. Our program exit options is where I keep all of that information. Student group information. You can see the career and co-op, time management documents, all of that stuff can be housed there. So you have free reign over what you want to be in your portal. And I think it's a great way for you to manage and create basically a one-stop shop for program information. So, we were just talking, I should have clicked on to this next slide as far as the student resources. We've talked about all of those things, the program information, Blackboard tutorials, DegreeWorks tutorials. The thing I love most about the portals is that you can use the announcements feature and reach your entire student population with one email. So any student that has been added to your portal, you're going to be able to send an announcement out to that entire group. Now, we do not clean our portals out, as people refer to it. If a student graduates, unless a student asks us to remove them, we don't. So because of that, you have current students, you could have some inactive students, you could also have those students that have graduated. And we even post job information if we get like internship type information, sometimes even full-time job opportunities, we will post those things there. So it gives you a great opportunity to get the word across to all of your students at one point. It just in one big email. You don't have to search for an Argos report or have someone find what is the current listing of your students. You can do all of that directly through your portals. So students should be added to your portal as soon as they are admitted, and that can be from an administrative person in your department. If you have access, depending on what your role is, you might be able to add people. So each department has to work out with a process on how our students going to be added. They're not automatically enrolled in this portal just because they are a student in the program. Some students do ask to be removed upon graduation, but we don't always ask them. We will not automatically remove them. And you can maintain separate portals for campus and online students, which is what I do, especially if your population is large and you want to target those specific groups. Tanya, do you want to add anything about portals?
Yeah, just, most online programs are, they have student portals in place. My fellow eCampus advisors oversee those. We provide a lot of the information needed, like Kim said, the basic EKU stuff. We've gone through a big change with the EKU Direct transitioning to My EKU, so students can find information like that in their portal. What we have learned, Kim and I both work as a part of an advising team for our programs. We have other advisors that work with us for OSH and SSEM. And what we have found is they may ignore an email from their advisor, but they'll read the portal announcement email. So, like Kim said earlier, students tend to ignore a lot of emails, but this is just something that might be a little different to them, and they might enough to grab their attention. So we certainly encourage everyone to touch base with your online advisor if you don't have access to that portal and see what kind of information is being offered.
Faculty can be added to the portal. So most of our faculty in our department are actually in the portal. If you are a faculty member, you actually have the ability to post an announcement and share whatever information you might need to, just knowing that it goes out to the entire student population. It is a good place to share important deadlines. Tanya and I post reminders about registration, graduation information, job fairs, any kind of important dates or important information for your students. The portal is a great place to keep all of this information. So we want it to be a place that students know that, yes, I can go here and I can find a lot of valuable information. We are at this moment, the OSH program, the SSEM program, we partner with an outside company, Pearson, and they do a lot of our online advising and recruiting and all of that. So they have created a very nice student handbook that a lot of our students have access to, but that is not something that most programs have. So creating a student handbook is a great way to share important program information. However, we still feel like this portal is truly that one-stop shop for students. Doesn't mean they can't reach out to specific departments and get information, but they should know early in their program that I can go to this portal and hopefully get some information that's going to be helpful to me. So we want to talk a little bit about how to increase retention, because we do all of these things because we want students to stay. And some of the things that Tanya and I do is we clearly outline the first day of attendance policy in our course. And we have an activity set in OSH 110 where students have to introduce themselves in the class lounge by Friday of week number 1. And that kind of serves as their yes, they're going to be a student in the program, and it kind of serves the purpose of saying that, yes, they're going to participate as part of that first day of attendance policy. Some instructors use the discussion board that might be used in week number 1, or you can actually use any kind of activity. But I do feel it's important that students know early on about that first day of attendance policy, and that they need to log into their courses early in the week, even if you don't intend to start your work. Look in it, look over the class, ask questions, read the syllabus, make sure you have your book, and just make sure that you're ready to go. Because if you get behind in an 8-week course, it's really hard to catch up. And my program has 6-week courses in the summer, which makes it even harder. So having that clear expectation of a first day of attendance policy activity is really important. We also have we try to work to resolve issues with the bookstore, and that causes immense frustration for students at times when they don't have their books and a course is ready to start. So we try to intervene if we can, and try to find resolution to any sort of bookstore issues that there may be. As far as reaching out to an advisor for those non-participating students during class, we ask that if we have a student that hasn't done that first day of attendance activity, usually on Thursday of week number 1, we will contact their advisor and say, can you give these students a call? They haven't logged in, they haven't done this. And we don't do that only for the first week, but if we see that there's any student that is not participating, that had been participating earlier in the term, we reach out and have their advisor try to give them a call. Because you may try to email them all day and they may totally ignore your email, but they might pick up the phone for your advisor. And sometimes there's something that's gone on that, you know, they've just failed to let us know. So we work with students to the extent that we can. However, we do have a 6 or an 8-week course a lot of times that needs to be followed on track as closely as it can be. So it doesn't mean we won't work with them, but we want to make sure that non-participating students are contacted by their advisor. We do offer individual calls or a Teams video meeting if students need that. I think that I've had a lot of students take me up on that. They just want to have an individual call with me. It doesn't matter if it's an online class, I'm still going to talk to them. So I encourage all of my students to reach out to me by email, by phone. We can do a Teams call, especially if they're struggling with something for an assignment. Teams or Zoom makes it very easy for me to pull up that assignment. They can pull up their assignment. We can see each other's screens. And it's really been a beneficial tool since COVID has come along. There's not been a lot of great things about COVID, but for me, Teams and Zoom has really helped a lot of our online students feel a little bit more comfortable with getting their questions answered, and knowing that just because they're not here and they can't see me face to face, that yes, as an instructor, they'll take some time to give me that one-on-one help if needed. Some of our instructors also do like a weekly or a bi-weekly Teams call where students can call in and just ask questions. You can meet other students, even if it's just seeing their picture in a little screen. You can just ask questions of your instructor as a group, and there's really doesn't have to be any certain content covered, because our online classes don't have specific days or times they have to log in. It's just kind of an extra bonus that a lot of our online students have really come to like. It's not on all of our classes, but it could be something that you might consider for a class that you're currently doing or doing in the future. And Tanya, do you want to talk about the coordinating with that office?
Coordinating with the bookstore and with OMVA.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. And actually, Jamie, I see that you're on here, so thanks for that. You know, our military office also serves as secondary advisors to our students. Our military students come in with some really unique issues, some unique needs, and our folks over there, Jamie and Barbara and everybody, is just awesome to work with. They don't care for the number of emails or phone calls they receive. And the quicker we can help our military folks out, get them settled, you know, they have unique things, the financial aspect, getting extra resources. Sometimes they're across the world from us. And so just the basics of time zones is a problem. Our bookstore is trying to work with them in getting the books shipped to them in a timely fashion, which has been a little bit of a problem here the last few semesters. So it's really easy to reach out to these other areas. They have always been very receptive, willing to help. And again, like we said from the very beginning, anything we can do to alleviate that initial stress of starting a class will help our students feel more comfortable and hopefully help retain them.
Thank you, Tanya. And we just have a couple of more things. We do encourage student use of any kind of EKU tutoring resources. Sometimes we can clearly see that a student can really benefit from having some sort of outside help other than just us. The Knoll Studio online consultations are tremendous, I think, for those students that will take advantage of using that source. And it's not something that students would have to continue to do their entire time here, just until they kind of became more comfortable with their skills as far as writing and doing those types of presentations and projects that might be needed for any of their classes. And we do send a lot of email reminders for upcoming due dates, for things, just to try to get students to find a way, as far as that time management goes, find a way to manage everything that is done for the week. A lot of our online students do work only on the weekend, and that's okay, but we also encourage those students that know that they're going to be working just on the weekends to reach out and have questions answered earlier in the week, because a lot of folks at EKU are only here during the work day. So you can't expect on a Saturday afternoon to have someone respond to you immediately in another EKU office. So we encourage students to look at their assignments early in the week, even if you're not going to work on the assignments at that time. See, do you think you have any questions that need to be answered? We also encourage students to look at the virtual office, and that's a place where you can ask questions of your instructor. And even if you didn't ask questions, a lot of your classmates may have asked questions about the assignments for that week. So sometimes just going to the virtual office can answer some questions that students may not know they had yet, because they hadn't started working on the assignments for the week. So, that's important as well. Tanya, you do want to talk a little bit about not doing too much, not holding a hand too much? But
yeah, I was just thinking that, a lot of this seems pretty heavy-handed at the beginning of a semester. We are making a lot of contact in a variety of ways with the students. That is in no way an attempt to, as I say, hold their hand through this whole process. What we are trying to do is to give them all the skills up front so that they feel comfortable and competent in their ability to work these online classes. So we help set the tone. Yes, we're reaching out, we're emailing, we're saying, hey, you haven't participated this week, we need you to get started. But we're also holding them to firm deadlines. We have late work policy that we hold to. Other than extreme unforeseen circumstances, they're not going to earn all the points that you would. You can't wait until week 7 and turn this stuff in and expect to get full credit. So what our intent in this, and it seems to be working pretty well, is that we set the tone for them in OSH 110 so that they could carry through the rest of the program, understanding that there's help when it's needed, it is available, but they are required to follow the course syllabus, and they have personal responsibility as far as their assignments and reaching out to the instructor as needed. So what we hope we're doing is walking this fine line between giving them the assurance they need to get started and then the confidence they need to wrap up the program.
And I think that's a perfect introduction to our last slide about wrapping up. Everything that Tanya said is totally true. And that can follow suit for whether you teach a campus class or an online class. I mean, the same thing goes across the board. So just to kind of wrap up some of the things that we've talked today, I do think it is very important to have a working relationship with your instructional designer. If you don't have one or you need some help, make sure that you reach out to Chris and he can provide you a little bit of assistance or direction. You make sure that you're introducing students to those EKU resources early on in an introductory type class, or if you just have some sort of online orientation to prepare them for success in your program. And I think we've talked about lots of reasons why we feel that providing that EKU type information is important. And, making sure that students have a one-stop shop to program information and that they know where to ask for help or where to get help. We have to really encourage students that it's okay to ask questions. It's okay to ask for help. And I think the earlier on in their program that they realize that they embrace that, yes, there's a little bit of extra EKU stuff I have to learn in class number 1 or class number 2. Once you learn that information, that's typically not going to change. So it does make maybe your introductory course a little bit overwhelming in those weeks that you include that EKU type information. It is well worth spending a little bit of extra time to know that, knowing how the university works, how Blackboard works, who can help me no matter what it is I need help with. So, Tanya and I have enjoyed teaching OSH 110 for several years and SC 801, and we have a new version of OSH 110 that's currently going right now. It's been going very well so far, and we really look for feedback for students. We ask, there's a midterm survey that we created in which there's questions that we ask specific to OSH 110, and we really encourage students to let us know how they're feeling at midterm. We have our own end of course survey questions in addition to the EKU survey that goes out. And we really like to hear the feedback, good and bad, because we know that courses need to be tweaked as time goes along. Things change. What makes sense to you may not make sense to students. And so you need to make adjustments. And, we work to make our classes the best that we can and spend that extra time, as we talked about at the beginning of today, making sure your shell is set up and it's actually ready to go. So, that is a lot of information that we've shared with you today. Is there anyone that's on that has any questions at this point in time before we're finished? Well, thank you all so much for joining us. I know that some folks may be watching the recording version of this as well. And so we appreciate you for joining us. If you have any questions for Tanya or myself, our contact information was on this slide. Chris, will they be able to have a copy of this PowerPoint? Will it be attached to the recording?
If you'd like to share that, or you shared the latest one with me in email, and
Yes.
I will put that. What I'm going to end up doing with some of these, well, I'll talk about it later, but absolutely, they will have access to this presentation.
Okay, well, that has our contact information. So we would love to hear from any of you that would like a little bit more information from us and what we've done. We can have a Teams call and share our shells with you if you need to, see a little bit more information than what we've shared today. But we do appreciate your time, and hopefully you got some important information that might help make your classes a little bit better and help our students finish what they started. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much. This was
Thank you.
great, kind of really a great introduction into what you all do, and not only an approach, some things I didn't think about, like, for example, the bookstore and how you integrate portals with everything, but also your spirit and attitude really comes through in a way that I think kind of communicates what Eastern is all about. So thank you all so much. I really appreciate it. And thank you all for attending.
We appreciate